Welcome to the 15th video in this series, making Frogger with Godot. In this video, we're going to make ourselves a little shader that's going to allow us to create these sort of expanding and disappearing rings which are appearing in the background along with the frogs. We're going to do this by actually using a particle emitter, and the shape for emitting the particles is going to be the entire viewport, and then we'll randomly emit 16 or 24 of them or so a second, and then onto each particle we'll apply this shader with a bit of random scaling, and the effect hopefully will be some nice sort of expanding and fading rings. So back inside the IDE then, let's select the main node here and we'll add ourselves a CPU particles 2D. I'm going to drag that all the way up, and I'm trying to decide whether to put it in front of, behind the color rect. I think I'll actually go behind the color rect. We can always add it in front of if we need to. On the right hand side then, let's have a look at the options here. So we'll leave emitting on, but we'll change the amount actually to 1 for now, so we can build the shader and then we'll add all of the particles randomly. For the time here, what we can also do is change the lifetime to make things a little bit easier to visualize as well, so we'll maybe put that 3 seconds for now. For the texture here then, we can grab hold of the particle dot, so we should have a dot somewhere falling down the screen. I did just see it there somewhere. Let's stop it falling by going to the gravity and turning off the gravity, so do Control S to save. And now we've got the particle being emitted over here. So let's actually go down to the transform of this and put this in the middle of the screen. So we've got 384 in the X, and then we have 512 in the Y, which puts this then in the middle of the screen, and you can see the particles just move to being emitted down here. I'll zoom in a little bit on that as well. There we go. So what we're going to do now is make this ring effect using a shader. Now, if you've never used shaders before, what's coming up will be a little bit confusing. However, it's quite a simple one, and I will explain why we're doing what we're doing as we go along, but this is not a shaders tutorial, so I'm not going to go into much of the background detail of how things are working. I will, though, describe it. So the first thing we need to do on the right-hand side is scroll all the way down, actually, and here we should find the material section. Then we can click the drop down and we'll make a new shader material. Then we can left click on the material itself, and in the shader slot here we can add a new shader, and here at the top here we change the type for a visual shader, so we can do this using nodes. I think if you're beginning this, it's a bit easier to do it that way. And then it's offering us a path of where to save this. It's actually a resource, and I'll just call this main ring shader. I think that'll do, and there's a .tres as well, and then we can do create, and that's created our shader resource. We can see that in the slot on the right hand side here. I'm going to left click on that, which opens up the shader editor. Now throughout this series you may have noticed I have the interface quite zoomed in the hope that you can see something, and now I'm seeing the disadvantage of that because I can see very little on the screen here. So what I'll be doing is probably working on this shader a little bit in distraction free mode so that I can actually see something in the screen, and hopefully you can then see what's going on. So I'm going to go into actually distraction free mode at the top here, and then slide this on along a little bit like this. Then I'm going to get rid of this map here by turning the map graph off, which makes a little bit more space, and then also make some more space by toggling the shader preview on the right hand side. That's a little bit better. So if you're not familiar with shaders at all, basically this menu here, you have 3 sections dealing with the vertices, which are the connecting points of a mesh or whatever you're dealing with the fragment, which is saying how you want to color each of the pixels, and dealing with the light, saying how you want light to affect things as well. We'll be dealing mostly with the color, which is the fragment section. Now what we're actually going to do with the shader is we're going to basically have this ring effect expanding through the particle itself throughout the lifetime of the particle. To be able to do that, we need to get hold of the lifetime of the particle, ideally a value from 0 to 1, where 0 is the start and 1 is the end of the particle lifetime. So we're not talking literally in seconds, we're talking in 0 to 1, if you like. We can do that actually from the vertex shader. This is a little bit obscure, this, and in fact I do see in a lot of tutorials a lot of sort of jumping through hoops to get the lifetime when it is available on the vertex shader. You just have to know where. So what we're going to do with the vertex shader selected is right click and type in input, and then double click on the input here. Then we're going to select from the drop down the instance custom. And it just so happens on this one here that the green here is the particle lifetime. We need to save that value so we can retrieve it in our fragment shader. To do that, we'll add what's known as a varying. This is a variable where we can save a value. So we'll click manage varyings here, add varying, leave the type as float, and I'm going to type lifetime and hit create. Then what we can do is we can right click here, add node. I'm going to type var for varying, and you should find a varying setter. I'll double click on that. We can select the lifetime we've just added from there and connect up our green into here. And we can grab hold of this value from inside the fragment shader to be able to then make this ring effect over the lifetime of the particle. So I'll do Control and S to save. So all we've done here is grab hold of the lifetime between 0 and 1. Now let's go to the fragment shader here. And this is where all the magic happens in terms of actually colouring things. So to start with, we could actually give it a colour, and I need to zoom out here because I've lost where, there it is, there's the particle. Okay, there you are. Okay, that's better. So let's give this a colour, and we'll make this a parameter so we can set this in the inspector. So to do this, we can right click in here, and I'll type COLORP, and you should find the colour parameter. So we can double click on that, and here we can change the name to something more useful. So I'll change this to maybe ring colour, and hit enter. And then what we can do is we can connect the output of this up to the output color. So that's telling the shader what to color each of the pixels, and we'll set that as a parameter in the inspector. In fact, we can do that now. So what we'll do then is come out of distraction free mode, or I will. Then on the right hand side, you should find shader parameters and the ring color here. So So I'm going to select this and make this some kind of bright color. And in fact, you can see now that we've got the green coming along here. I might go a little bit more blue or something like that. Obviously, we can change it later on. I'll bring that also a little bit more into the middle as well. Cool, so go back into distraction-free mode and do Control-S to save. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set some transparency, which is the alpha on this. And we're going to use the transparency to create this band, which is going to be our ring. To do this, we'll create a gradient texture inside here and then play around a little bit so you can see how things are going to work. So I'm going to drag this up to make a little bit more space. Right-click here, Add Node, and we want to add in here a texture. In our case, actually, we can add in a texture 2D. So I'll double-click on that. And in the slot here, the empty, if you click the drop down, you should find a gradient texture 1D. So we can left click on that. And that's actually created for us a gradient texture. And you can see the gradient here. Now, if you left click on this and you're not in distraction free mode, you'll see actually all the settings for the gradient on here. We're coming to that in a moment. What I'd like to do now though, is click the drop down here. So you can see a tiny little arrow next to color, grab hold of the alpha, which is the transparency values of this texture, and drag that node out into the alpha here. And we do that, we now get a full square. And the reason for that is because there's no transparency whatsoever in this gradient at all. So it's filling up the canvas item completely. Now what we can do though is add some transparency into this. So let's left click on the gradient up here. Now drag this across. And if you're not familiar with this, you can use these handles here to set the colors of the gradient and also the transparency. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click here and left click here to add in a couple more bands here. And the color is irrelevant. It's the transparency that's important. So let's left click on the right handmost one here. That should highlight the circle white. I'm going to left click on that, and then drag the transparency slider all the way down to fully transparent, and you can actually see the effect already here. Then we can click off that and grab hold of the left handle, the left handmost one here, click on the black square, and let's make that fully transparent as well. And I think probably you can see the effect that's going on here. So I'll click off that. And now we can use these to actually slide things and create quite a thin band. So I'll move these into the middle here like this, then drag this one all the way up to here and drag this one to here. And you can see we're creating now very nice thin band with a quite nice gradient for the transparency here as well. And this is what's eventually going to be our ring going outwards. What we need to be able to do to get that effect is over the lifetime of the particle, we need to be able to move this. And to do that, we need to be able to shift what's known as the UV, which is this little slot here. Now, I did say this is not a shader tutorial. Nevertheless, if you're not familiar with what a UV is doing, it's going to make very little sense. Therefore, what I'm going to do now is quickly introduce you to how a UV works. And when I say quickly, I really mean quickly, and then we'll come back and do what we need to do with this shader. If you are familiar with how UVs work, then you'll see in the video chapters, the chapter coming up as a UV introduction, and you can happily skip that chapter and then carry on. So a UV is simply a map, actually, of which bits of an image should go where on a particular item that's having the image applied to it. That might be a mesh when you're in 3D, or in the case of canvas items here, it would be the canvas item. You can think of the U as the X going in this direction and the V as the Y going in this direction. And the UV map has the coordinates of 0 to 1 in each direction. And by default, the way the map works is simply by stretching this map for 0 to 1 in each direction over the canvas item, which in this case is this yellow box. So if we had a square for a square image like this, and we wanted to use this UV to apply this image to our canvas item, it looks for the top left here for the coordinate 0, 0, and takes that red pixel there, and keeps walking along through them, evenly spacing everything out from 0 to 1 across the top of the canvas item here, and so on down the right hand side. Then if you have a canvas item, say like this, that isn't a perfect square, that doesn't matter. All it's going to do is stretch things out like this, again using the UV map to apply everything to the surface. So how's that handy for us? Well, what you can do is you can shift the UV coordinates. So for example, you might shift the coordinates by minus 0.5. And if you do that, the top left is now going to take its color from the image at the UV coordinate of 0.5 in the U in this case, which would be here. And then it would carry on in this direction until it got to 1. And when it gets to 1, it simply stops and just repeats the pixels it had at the end forever and ever and ever. The same would happen also if we shifted, say, in this direction, then it would start taking them from here. And when you see images moving on surfaces, what's actually happening is the UV is being panned, as it's known, in a particular direction. So here the UV has been panned by minus 0.5. Generally, what you do with the UV panning is you apply a little bit of maths in it so that you actually have some kind of wraparound. So when you get to the 1.0, what you actually get then next is the UV coordinate 0.0, and then it takes this piece here, and then you get this infinitely scrolling image effect. And it's this UV panning that we're going to use to make our band move. So our band's going to start over on the left-hand side, if you like, and then it's basically over the lifetime of the particle going to be moved to the right. Now, obviously, that's not the end effect because we're going in a circle, but we'll cross that bridge later on when we come to it. For now, what I'd like to do is get a band moving from left to right. Okay, so back in the IDE, either you've just arrived having skipped the UV or you've seen the very, very quick overview of the UV. What we're going to do is on the right-hand side here, so I'm actually going to move these bands right down here to start off our little band here at the beginning, somewhere like this. That'll do, I think, for the band. And now what we want to do is we want to pan our UV, and we can give an input to the UV coordinates here on this slot. So if we right click, we can type UVP, and you should find the UV panning. It's already built into the visual shaders, which is very handy. And then we can plug this into here. Now that won't have any effect at the moment because it's the default UV. But what we can do is play around a little bit with this offset here. So if you left click and open up the offset, the Y we're always going to leave at 0. But if you hold down the mouse and drag negative, what you'll see now is the panning. We've just seen in the slides, if it was positive, we would end up going to the left. We want to go to the right, and this is what we're actually going to do over the lifetime of the particle, is that you can see here by playing around with this offset, except we'll do it from code automatically, so we don't have to drag the mouse for each of the rings. So that's the kind of effect that we're going for. Yes, it's not yet a circle, it will be, but that's what we're going for. So I'll leave that alone and put 0 back in there and hit enter. What we want is this actually panning over time and over the lifetime of the particle. So to do this then, I'm going to zoom out and pan this all along a little bit. So we need to get hold of that particle lifetime. So we can right click and type VAR, and you should find there varying getter. So we can get the lifetime from here. And we need to send in a vector to this offset here with the Y always being 0. To do that, we make a vector 2, and that's always called composing a vector 2. So we're going to drag out of here and type COMP, and you should find compose here, vector compose. So I'll double click on that, change this vector 3 to a vector 2, and the Y is now 0, and the X is the value of the lifetime. And then we can plug this into the offset, except the problem is the lifetime will be increasing from 0 to 1, which is going to make us go the wrong way. So what we'll actually do is we'll multiply this lifetime first of all by -1. So I'm going to drag off here, drag out from here, type MULT, and you should find the float multiply. So I'll double click on that, left click on the B here and type -1 and hit enter. So we've now got -1, so we're multiplying the lifetime by -1, and we can plug that now into the X. And now we should be able to plug this into the offset, and we should see this now moving automatically from left to right over the lifetime of the particle, which is pretty cool. Now what we want to do is we want to get this actually to be a ring, and that means converting things into what are known as polar coordinates. When you've got polar coordinates, what you have is the distance from the center and the angle represented by the U and the V. Luckily for us, we don't need to do any complex maths or anything like that because there's a node already built into here to do it for us. So we can right click, add node, type UVP, and you should find the UV polar coordinates. We can double click on that to select it, and then we can plug this into the UV here. You should find now that it's going outwards. Now, when it's going outwards like this, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a problem on the edges here with the repetition coming in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add something called a mask in here so that we can use some more alpha from our actual particle texture to get rid of this on the outside. So what we'll do then is down here, I'm conscious of space. Let me go to distraction free mode. That's a little better. I'm hoping you can see things here. I'm going to right click, and we need another texture 2D here. So drop in a texture 2D, and in the quick load slot, let's find out particle dot here. So that's got some nice alpha around the edges. And what we'll do is we'll multiply the alpha of this with the alpha of this, and plug it into that. And that should get rid of those horrible edges for us. So I'll click the little open here, grab from the alpha, and then type MULT. We want the float multiply again. It doesn't matter if this is in A or B. I'll put it in B though. And then let's go from the alpha of this one to this. And then we can plug this into the alpha, and we should find, yeah, you can see the effect now of the mask on the alpha. That's giving us actually, I think, a really nice effect. And that should be actually our shader in terms of the ring actually done. We can just see it very faintly there. So I'm going to zoom out and then come back out of distraction free mode and then select our CPU particles so we can start selecting some of the options up here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually change the amount here, maybe to 24. That might be too many, but we'll emit 24 of these. And let's drop the lifetime down to 1 second as well. We don't need any explosiveness or anything like that. I'd like them to be evenly spawned over the lifetime. So we've got 24 of them at 1 second of lifetime. Let's go to the spawn point though. Where is that? So that's in the emission shape here. At the moment it's a point, which means they're all being emitted where it's actually positioned at this cross here. So let's change that to a rectangle. And we can set the extents to 384 and to 512. And that should now be a shape that's covering, in fact, I can see it here already, covering the entirety of the screen. And it's already looking quite nice, actually. What I'd like to do is randomly scale these a little bit. And I think we're probably actually done with that. So let's go to the scale down here. And we can set the scale minimum, say, to, I don't know, 0.5, maybe the maximum to 2 or something like that. So we've got now rings of different sizes appearing on the screen. And we can also do maybe is add a little bit of extra scaling with a curve to this as well. So add a new curve, left click on that. We'll start them off slightly smaller than we intend, go up to the full intended size, and then we can drop it down a little bit towards the end as well, just to add a little bit more to this. Yeah, maybe I have to drag that in a little bit. That doesn't actually look too bad. So I'll click on the shader editor down the bottom here. And that is looking, I think anyway, quite nice for a relatively simple shader. So I'm going to do Control and S to save. So let's run the application then and see how it looks. Oh, that's not looking too bad, is it? There may be a little bit fast actually. I'm going to close it down, close down the output. On the right hand side, we can go up and maybe change the lifetime to 2 seconds here. And then run the application again. Let's have a look. So it look better. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. And hopefully you can see actually with relatively little effort, we haven't done much with the particles or the shader really. You can already get some nice visual effects. So I'll close that down and close down the output. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thanks very, very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that one. And if you've never seen shaders before, hopefully you've had a little bit of an introduction to them. What we're going to do in the next video is finish off the final feature of the game. And that's keeping track of our high scores and displaying them on the screen.